Hello and welcome to a new episode of Oriclopedia. I had not planned to do two episodes like that back to back, but I happen to have received this last week. And so I thought probably it was a good idea to do that now. So today's topic is packaging, especially the Oric packaging. So if you've been acquiring some Oric stuff from eBay or other, you probably receive this kind of things, some crummy crystal boxes, a bit damaged, or some standalone Oric units without any boxes, with some modifications, sometimes with computer labels of the company selling it. But it's cool, it's much better than having just the emulator games, but that kind of detract of the original concept of what the games were. Like, typically, it's not what you will have bought back in the days. You will have bought something like that, shrink wrap in the cardboard box with some Oric logo in this particular case. And for the Air Informatic games, what you will have bought is something like that, shrink-wrapped with a nice sound packaging and the leaflet with the instruction inside. And the reason is most of this stuff is the small cardboard, which was probably thrown away because it took some room as soon as it was opened. And if you are lucky in regard of the Oric, sometimes you get the polystyrene with it, on a set of cables. So what this is a reproduction of the Oric Atmos box from Frank Medioni, which is available on Etsy. You can find the link in the description. And somebody else, RetroNerd, is considering doing something similar for the Oric one. So the question is, how good is it, and how close from the original packaging is it? So before showing the box replica, I wanted to show some of the example of actual Oric branded packaging. So as you can see, it's a bit all over the place. The Atmos box and the MCP40 box are in the same style, but the rest, it's really hit or miss, because it depends of the type of peripheral, which country it was made in. Some of the other boxes, like the Oric one or the Telestrat, are completely different. That one is a box of the Oric Nova 64. So the Oric Nova 64 was made in Eastern Europe, and so it's written in multiple languages. I have a video on that. And it's a custom box with the Oric Nova, which is like a Oric Atmos with just a slightly different model, and the power supply, which is in unused Oric micro disk device. The Nova 64 is kind of difficult to find. There were like 5,000 of them made, and finding the Nova 64 with the box is kind of challenging, to the point that citizens of the country asked me if they could buy one of mine for their museum, which I did, because they could not find one in a box. Then we have Periphoric, which is a pun on peripheric, which is what the French Oric company, so as you can see, Oric France, was packaging things. So they all had more or less the same box, because all these peripherals are small boxes. So that one is a speech synthesizer. Then we have the Oric tape drive, which I showed the other day. Nothing special. Came also with polystyrenes and the small manual. But as you can see, it's basically a black box with a red Oric logo, so not very creative. So this is a Oric Joystick, so I don't have the box for it, but I got photos of it, so you should see that on the video. And by the way, it's a terrible joystick, it's not very good at all. And then we have quite uncommon things. The Oric V23 modem, with, I don't know where it was, but the cable is very sticky, that's why all the dust is on it. And it came in this box. So as you can see, approved for use with telecommunication system run by British Telecom Communication in accordance with the condition in the instruction for use. BT approval number, yada yada. And there is a TNT overnight parcel express from the original person who got it. Sender Oric manufacturer. So it was actually sent like that. And there's still some polystyrene, but it's pretty damaged. Then we have the Oric MCP40 color printer. I have a video on it, so I'm not going to repeat things. And it's similar to the Atmos. It has some polystyrene inside, which is kind of hard to remove, and then some containers for the documentation, and the actual printer, place for a roll of paper, and the various cables. And normally here you have the pens. And finally we have the Oric Atmos box. So as you can see, it has been quite damaged, but compared to most of the boxes you can find on eBay, that one actually looks like it's in pristine condition. Many are just completely ripped out, missing beads, all the flaps are gone. So that one is in poor condition, but that's the best I could find. And that's the main reason why this reproduction thing has been done. So, depending on the countries, what you have inside may be different. So, this is the British manual, but in France we had that one. It's the same content, just in French, and for some reason they printed it on a way less compact format. With Welcome to Oric Atmos. Obviously the power brick is the French version. In UK, most probably it was sold only with the aerial cable, which connects to the back here. But in France it was mandatory from 1983 or 1984 to have SCART. So here is the SCART model, which as you can see has a small 12-volt connector. So most of the Oric were sold with an additional small power brick, which will hardly fit in the package. So sometimes that will come in a small box on the side. So time to look at that. So as you can see, it's been a bit bent, but there are no damage in it. The cardboard is relatively thick, and there are these reinforcements. And inside you get this. So I already opened it, I wanted to check if everything was correct. So, cher client, merci pour votre achat. Pour des raisons pratiques et afin d'éviter qu'elle ne soit endommagée durant le transport, cette boîte vous est livrée à plat. Dear customer, thanks for your purchase. For practical reasons and to prevent it from being damaged during transport, this box is delivered to you flat. The folds of the box were made in the workshop to make your job easier and prevent the cardboard from breaking too much. Fold according to the planning grooves. Fold all the grooves before gluing. Glue on the strip, see following drag diagram here, and assemble. For better grip, it's recommended to glue flat rather than in the volume and place a weight, books for example, on the joint. Once the box is glued, the time depends on the type of glue used. Finish folding all the parts to admire your Oric box. It can easily be slipped on the original polystyrene. We look forward to seeing you again in our store. So, there it is. So, I guess the first step is to fold things. So it's been a bit bent here, but nothing catastrophic. This one is folded. This one is fine, this one's fine. And I guess we need to fold that one. So that one is pre-folded, but maybe it should have been pre-folded a bit more. And before gluing, it's generally a good idea to see if things fit. So, let's see. So that's what it looks like when it's not glued. So that's been scratched a bit here, the black print. And it's actually a bit too wide. I get better than 2 now. So I'm going to glue and then I'm going to continue when it's done. The box has been glued and I put it over the secondary polystyrene I had. So, how does it compare with the original? Well, an obvious thing is that my original is barely managing to stay closed, while that one does stay closed. So, an obvious difference is the colors. That one, the original, is very much grey-greenish, while that one is much more purplish. Another difference is that the font here is quite different. Like you can see here, the R is closed, and here the R is open. The C here is closing, while the C is here is open. So let's look at the side. And that's actually interesting because here this is the correct R. So I believe this is the correct font on this side, but for some reason that's not the right one here. So if there is a second revision of this box, I think the author should make sure that he use this font here. Otherwise, it's not bad. It's slightly different, but it's acceptable. The red, I guess, is spot on, no problem. So let's continue. Oric Product International Limited. Oric International Product Limited. So there is a difference. Here it is a very sharp printout with thin characters. Here it's a bit more mushy, but honestly that's not really a problem. Copy box of original Oric Atmos packaging, copyright 23, which is fine. It means that people will not try to sell these boxes on eBay pretending they are original new dual stocking. So this is my damaged box. The side is fine as well, and the other side as well. So, I think the biggest problem is that the box is too big. Not that much, but just a few millimeters in each direction. Yeah, when it was folded, it was not folded enough, so it got kind of broken. And the paper is quite thin. So, if there were a second revision of the box, what I would say is resize it so it is. So if I align here, yeah, make sure to get it a few millimeters narrower so it hits the box better. Because the problem is that since it's very soft paper, the paper is too thin compared to the original cardboard. I think it would be at least, yeah, it could easily be double the thickness. It will stay flat instead of bubbly like that. So if there is a second revision, thicker paper, make sure that the mark for folding are marked more, because I was not able to properly fold it, and that rips out of the color. Yeah, fix the font and probably tweak the colors so there is less of a purple accent. I mean, the Oric should look black, not almost purple. And yes, I know it is difficult, because myself, I've been printing, been trying to make some Oric labels and game inlays for production of games. And getting the proper colorimetry has been very, very difficult. And to have the proper size, I had to do a number of attempts. And all this has been costing quite a lot. So I know it's not easy. But if you have to do it, it's nice to at least have these small things fixed. Changing that is a non-issue. This is probably just tweaking a little bit the colors in Photoshop. Regarding the definition of the printout itself, it's definitely not as sharp as the original, but the problem is that this type of print is extremely difficult to scan correctly, because at the eye it looks like it's proper colors, but if you zoom, you will see that it's just a tiny red, green, blue, black, white dots, which when you try to scan them result in a very mushy result. So managing to get a proper scan of that so you can replicate it, it's very difficult, so I will not complain about that. But for the rest, is it a proper replacement of the Oric box? Well, if you don't have a box, yes, definitely go for it. Problem is, if it's not nicely fitting around, it's just going to get damaged quite fast. So yeah, that's all I had to say. So I'm going to keep it like that in my shelf. And hopefully there are going to be a new batch of boxes for printer, Telestrat, microdisc, Oric One, etc.